Financial fear is one of the most powerful and least discussed forces shaping money decisions. It is the reason people avoid opening bank statements, delay investing for years, stay in jobs they hate, or panic at exactly the wrong moment in markets. The books that genuinely help people overcome financial fear do not promise certainty or eliminate risk. Instead, they teach something far more realistic and far more useful: how to build confidence without needing the world to be predictable. Financial confidence, as these books show, is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act constructively despite it. One of the clearest lessons across financial literature is that fear thrives in ambiguity. In The Total Money Makeover, Dave Ramsey treats fear not as an emotion to analyze, but as a signal that structure is missing. Debt disorganization and unclear cash flow create a constant background anxiety that magnifies every decision. Ramsey's rigid steps work because they replace ambiguity with order. When you know exactly what comes next, fear loses leverage. Confidence grows not from optimism, but from having a plan that does not require constant judgment under stress. Your Money or Your Life approaches financial fear from a different angle. Instead of imposing rules, it dissolves fear by redefining money itself. By framing money as life energy, the book exposes the hidden trade-offs people are making unconsciously. Much financial fear comes from the sense that life is slipping away in exchange for things that do not matter. When spending aligns with values and enough is clearly defined, fear softens. You stop worrying about running out because you stop chasing endlessly. Confidence emerges from alignment rather than accumulation. Another foundational book in overcoming fear is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Housel explains that fear often comes from comparing your internal situation to someone else's visible success. This comparison creates a false sense of inadequacy and urgency. The book teaches that everyone plays a different financial game based on their history, risks, and goals. When you accept this, fear of being behind begins to fade. Confidence does not come from matching others, but from understanding yourself. Housel's greatest contribution is normalizing uncertainty. When uncertainty is expected, it becomes less threatening. The Intelligent Investor addresses financial fear directly through the concept of margin of safety. Fear intensifies when mistakes feel catastrophic. Graham's framework is designed to make mistakes survivable. By investing with buffers, conservative assumptions, and predefined policies, the investor no longer needs to be right all the time. This removes a major source of anxiety. Fear thrives when perfection is required. Confidence grows when forgiveness is built into the system. Another recurring theme in financial books is that fear decreases dramatically with clarity of exposure. Many people fear markets because they do not know how much they could lose, how long they must wait, or what they should do if things go wrong. Books that work insist on answering these questions in advance. How much risk am I taking? What is my worst-case scenario? What is my plan if markets fall? When these questions are answered calmly, ahead of time, fear during crises becomes manageable rather than paralyzing. Perhaps the most important insight in Part 1 is that financial fear is not a personal flaw. It is a natural response to uncertainty combined with responsibility. The books that help people overcome fear do not shame it away. They design around it. They reduce decision load, clarify priorities, and replace reactive behavior with intentional systems. Part 1 establishes that confidence with money is not built by bravado or constant reassurance. It is built by structure, values, and realistic expectations. Fear fades when you stop asking money to provide certainty and start asking it to provide flexibility. And it is exactly here, when fear is understood as a signal rather than an enemy, that the deeper transformation begins because the goal is not to eliminate fear forever, but to prevent it from controlling decisions when it matters most. And this is where the story naturally continues into its second half, because fear does not disappear once you understand it. It fades only when new behaviors are repeated long enough to replace uncertainty with trust. Part 2 is about how the books that endure turn insight into confidence over time, not through motivation, but through identity habit and exposure that is controlled rather than overwhelming. One of the most powerful long-term lessons from financial books is that confidence grows from small, repeatable wins, not from bold moves. Fear often comes from feeling inexperienced or untested. Books like I Will Teach You to Be Rich emphasize starting with simple automation, small investments, and limited decisions. When saving and investing happen automatically, success no longer depends on courage in the moment. Over time, seeing progress occur without constant effort builds quiet confidence. You begin to trust the system, and eventually you begin to trust yourself. Another critical shift taught by these books is changing identity before changing outcomes. Fear persists when you see yourself as bad with money behind or not an investor. Books like Atomic Habits and The Psychology of Money show that identity drives behavior. When you begin acting like someone who checks finances, calmly invests regularly, and plans ahead even in small ways, your self-image updates. Confidence is not something you summon. It is something you become through repeated evidence that you can handle money responsibly. Financial books also stress the importance of reducing decision frequency. Fear spikes when every financial choice feels consequential. Budgeting systems, predefined investment policies, and clear rules remove constant judgment calls. The intelligent investor is explicit here. Decisions made in advance are calmer and smarter than decisions made under pressure. When you already know how you will respond to market drops, income changes, or unexpected expenses, fear loses its urgency. You are no longer improvising your future in real time. Another long-term confidence builder is normalizing volatility and mistakes. Books that help people overcome fear do not promise smooth progress. They prepare readers for drawdowns, setbacks, and boredom. Housel's work is especially clear on this point. Discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the price of admission. When volatility is expected, it becomes informational rather than frightening. Confidence grows when you realize that fear does not mean danger. It often means exposure to growth. A subtle but crucial lesson is learning to define success internally rather than socially. Many people remain financially anxious even as their situation improves because they measure themselves against others. Books like The Millionaire Next Door and Your Money or Your Life repeatedly dismantle this habit. When success is defined by peace of mind, margin, and control over time, fear loses its social fuel. You stop worrying about whether you are winning and start focusing on whether your life feels stable and aligned. Financial books also teach that confidence requires margin. Emergency funds, low fixed expenses, and conservative assumptions are not pessimistic choices. They are psychological safety nets. Margin absorbs shocks so that fear does not have to. When one unexpected expense no longer threatens collapse, anxiety drops dramatically. This is why so many books prioritize buffers before optimization. Confidence is fragile when life has no room for error. Perhaps the most important long-term lesson is that confidence comes from consistency, not certainty. You never reach a point where money becomes risk-free or fully predictable. The people who feel confident with money are not those who eliminated uncertainty, but those who learned they could handle it. That belief is built slowly through systems that work, habits that stick, and repeated proof that fear no longer dictates behavior. When Part 1 and Part 2 are taken together, a clear picture emerges. Financial fear is not cured by knowing more, earning more, or avoiding risk entirely. It is overcome by designing a financial life that is understandable, forgiving, and aligned with values. Books that succeed do not remove fear. They put it in its proper place, and this is where the story ultimately lands. Confidence with money is not bravado. It is quiet. It shows up as calm during downturns, patience during boredom, and clarity during decisions. The wisdom from financial buttocks teaches that fear fades when you stop demanding certainty from money and start building systems that let you move forward anyway. When that happens, money becomes less of a threat and more of a tool supporting a life that feels steady, intentional, and resilient, no matter what the numbers do in the short term.